Wow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. It's our Friday edition. Just not sure exactly when we came on air on the network or not, but we are here, and we are live and underway on our Friday 2-hour Paranormal Portal extravaganza. It's a full buffet of fun right here on the show, ladies and gentlemen, where we're going to dig into all the paranormal goodness that you can fit on a plate. And hopefully you'll leave here all entertained and satisfied, but if not, there might be something wrong with you. It couldn't be us. So it's not us, but before we go any further, let me just say that there is another among us tonight. It is our good friend, our wonderful friend, longtime co-host of the Paranormal Portal has returned tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and that is our very own Mr. Longbeard. How you doing, brother?
Doing good.
Doing good.
Things are peachy.
Huh, it's not working.
Peachy, I said. Oh,
it's not working.
You got the wrong picture up there.
It just shows in that. There you are. It finally came. There we go.
Super Don.
Now you're on screen.
Super Don.
Super Don is here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to figure out where to put him, but
oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Look at him.
You're on the screen.
He's a handsome devil. Yes. Oh goodness, that's a different frame too.
Yeah, I've been busy here. I've been working with Wes, and we've been drilling into the intricacies of our craft, and it seems to be working out pretty good. But yeah, I think it looks pretty pretty, huh? Pretty pretty.
I think it's right over your face.
Kind of. You're kind of on. Yeah, I'm got to move over maybe now tonight. I don't know. I just wanted to test it out. I can shrink it down and stuff, so it's like I can rescale it as needed and make sure it fits. But it's cool that it works. Now, ladies and gentlemen, those of you in the chat, can you hear any echo or anything like that? Because last night we tested it out and there was an echo. So I'm wondering if you guys are hearing Don okay, or if you have an echo, please let me know. And we'll keep exploring the use of this in future shows and expanding it more. But I just wanted to try it out tonight. So YouTube sounds good. Sounds perfect. Thank you very much.
And everybody can hear me.
Everybody can hear Don. Is that correct? No echo. No echo. All right. Good. You guys are kind of my live beta test, ladies and gentlemen, because there's only so much you can develop in the studio, and without being on an actual live connection, it's so hard to troubleshoot. So I hope you guys don't mind, but let me know if you're hearing Don okay, and that will help a ton. Yep. Dream says yep. Let's see what's going on. No echo, and Bam says no echo in TFR. So we're doing good, brother. This looks like a win.
Wow.
It looks like a win.
That's nice.
Excellent.
Yay. Yay.
So I'll be able to implement that scene on more of what we're doing. I'm actually going to be revamping the whole scene for those of you on YouTube. You've been, looking at this same wallpaper for quite a while. So we're going to be upgrading everything, repositioning, reconfiguring, but this is just part of phase 1 of that. So we're in the testing phase here, and it looks good. So, but Don.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Certainly.
Are you ready?
Tell me I help.
Are you ready for the news?
The news?
The news. We can do it. If you are all set to do it with me, let me just do this quick first. I'm going to try rolling this out as we go. But ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Paranormal Portal news. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal newscast. And I am here with myself as your anchor, but also with Mr. Longbeard, if I can make it work here. Let's see what happens. See if it pops into place and works as it's supposed to. Kind of took a second last time, so we'll see what it does here. Just if you don't mind bearing with me as we test this live on the show. But we are going to cover some Paranormal Portal news that I've what's that word? Where you
curated?
Yeah. Well, that wasn't really the word, but that's one we're going to go with. Things I've found to cover on the news tonight. It doesn't look like that's going to work as it is, but I'll get that troubleshot and configured later. So I'm going to turn that off on this frame, and we're going to get to article number 1 here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. You can see Mr. Longbeard here briefly as I pull an article over his face. And we're going to start with an article from unexplained-mysteries.com. And this is 160-foot floating terrors spotted off of the UK coast. That sounds creepy. But let's see what it says. It says authorities have warned beachgoers to be wary of a particularly large invader with a potential deadly sting. Driven towards the British Isles by a recent bout of stormy weather, the Portuguese man of war, which despite resembling a jellyfish is actually a siphonophore. I didn't know a siphonophore. Can grow up to 160 feet long and is able to deliver a sting that, on rare occasions, can actually prove fatal to anyone on the receiving end. Also known as the blue bottles or the blue bottle jellyfish due to their strikingly colored bodies, these enigmatic creatures are unable to move under their own power, but instead go where the wind and tide take them, which in this case happens to be the beaches of the south of England. Well, it's a good thing it's not summer. Yeah. Its sting, which can be delivered long after the creature is dead, can induce excruciating pain. Man-o-wars are particularly interesting because they are not single creatures, but are instead made up of colonies of smaller creatures known as zooids, I guess, or zoids. The name comes from a type of 18th century warship often used during large naval battles. The Portuguese man-o-war lives at the surface of the open ocean, held afloat by a gas-filled bladder, said a spokesperson for the Wildlife Trust. This has a crest-like structure, and at the top, which acts as a sail. Wow! And they can't swim and are at the mercy of the winds, which is why they often end up washed up ashore after big storms. So if you're in the UK and you fancy a swim, go to a pool.
Go to a pool.
Do not go swimming in the ocean. Just saying, it's probably a good thing to avoid right now. So that's our first article on our list of fun here on the portal. Let's get to our next one, which is, this one is more spacey than anything. It's not really paranormal, but it's new development, and I like these new technological developments. So this one comes from unexplained-mysteries.com. Secretive X-37B has spent 500 days in space.
Wow.
Did you know about the secretive X-37B, Don?
No,
Me neither.
I did not.
Guess that's why it was secretive, right? Okay, so it says the latest mission of the mysterious space plane has so far lasted 500 days and nobody knows what it's up to. Resembling a miniature version of NASA's now retired space shuttles, this pint-sized robotic space plane was passed over to the U.S. Department of Defense back in 2004 and has since embarked on a series of secretive orbital missions, sometimes spending over a year at a time in space. It last launched back in May 17th, 2020, and has remained in orbit ever since, most likely carrying out a variety of scientific and technological experiments, but also potentially conducting covert surveillance with an emphasis on the activities of countries such as China and Russia. What we know about the specifics of this particular mission is limited to what can be discerned from the onboard experiments that it is carrying. Some of which, sorry, that was a throat burp. That sounded horrible. Oh man. Some of which have been having been identified prior to launch. These include PRAM, photovoltaic radio frequency and antenna module, an experiment from the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory that is designed to investigate the possibility of converting solar energy into radio frequency microwave energy. It's also carrying the Falcon Sat-8 satellite, a small experimental platform developed by the U.S. Air Force Academy and sponsored by the Air Force Research Laboratory, and it, as well as 2 NASA experiments designed to study the effects of space on seed samples. As usual, however, the X-37B's mission goals are classified. So as things stand, we can only guess as to what else it might be doing up there and when it will eventually return to Earth. Well, there you go. It might not be a UFO. It might be a secretive X-37B.
So It's an unmanned space shuttle, basically.
Yeah, it's like just looks like a big drone.
Yeah.
That looks like a space shuttle. Looks like a space shuttle drone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Huh. Interesting.
yeah, it's kind of different. I don't know.
Why do they have to make it secret, though? I mean, is there secret squirrel stuff inside?
I don't know what's going on that's so secret, but makes you wonder, doesn't it? Definitely makes you wonder. Well, the next one we're going to cover, ladies and gentlemen, also comes from unexplained-mysteries.com. And this is a probe to smash into an asteroid at 15,000 miles per hour. So, so you remember, Don, like our theory about some people, it's like, what is that? I don't know. Let's shoot it. Well, this is the NASA version of that. So if you can't shoot it, you just fly a probe at 15,000 miles per hour into stuff to see what happens. NASA has announced more details of an upcoming mission that will attempt to redirect an asteroid. Oh, okay, so it's to redirect. Okay. Known as Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART. The spacecraft will launch on November 23rd and head to the binary asteroid Didymos, which consists of one large space rock measuring 2,600 feet across and a smaller moonlet, which measures around 525 feet across. Once there, the probe will smash headlong into the smaller of the two rocks at 15,000 miles per hour. The mission is designed to test out what is known as the kinetic impactor technique, an asteroid defense strategy that works by redirecting an incoming space rock so that it misses Earth. So they call that, Don, they call it kinetic impactor technique.
Don't they just call that like shoot a harpoon at something and see if it breaks apart?
Yeah, I think that's
basically what they're doing, right?
It might as well be a kid with his Hot Wheels, and some vegetables. It's like, wonder what this one will do. So that's great. They call it that, though. That's so funny. They put so much name into so much thought into the name.
Yeah, DART.
It will
Double asteroid redirection test.
Yeah, I know. It will confirm for us what the viability of kinetic impactor technique is for diverting an asteroid's orbit and determining that it remains a viable option, at least for smaller sized asteroids, which are most frequent impact hazard, NASA's Lindley Johnson told Space.com. Europe, meanwhile, was to launch AIM, which is an asteroid impact mission, a probe that would travel to the scene of the experiment where it could collect data about the impact as it happens. However, this has since been replaced with a less ambitious spacecraft known as Hera. Nice. Hera will arrive several years after the collision has happened and will conduct a full analysis of the impact crater while also trialing a number of novel new technologies, such as autonomous navigation. The data it collects could one day help us, quite literally, save the world. See, they don't need to lob Bruce Willis up there anymore. You just crash stuff into it. That is funny. Huh.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
That there's science, Don.
Well, yeah, and it's going to take the cleanup crew several years to get there. Is that what it said?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's like, let's get this done on time, right? Yeah. So we're gonna shoot this thing out there, and we're gonna wait a long time to shoot out, whatever's gonna, read the directions on what happened. Read the results, I should say.
Right.
So yeah, that makes all kinds of sense, doesn't it?
So it's like the NASA equivalent to a Scud missile. Remember those Scud missiles? It's like Sam Kinison used to do a line about, hey, what they do is they drive a car out into the desert, open the trunk, launch the thing, then go home and check out CNN to see what they hit. It's kind of like the NASA equivalent to that. It's like, okay, let's go find out how we did. Now, here's one that's kind of interesting for any of you true crime, unsolved mystery buffs out there. This one might be up your alley. And this is from unexplained-mysteries.com. Has the Zodiac Killer finally been identified? It says cold case investigators believe that they have finally discovered the identity of the infamous murderer. The notorious killer, whose identity has remained a mystery for over 40 years, terrorized parts of Northern California back in the 60s and 70s, and has been linked to multiple murder cases. His nickname Zodiac Killer was earned after he started sending cryptic messages to newspapers, and even to the police themselves, some of which having only recently been deciphered. The case itself has remained unsolved for decades, but now a team of 40 former police investigators, journalists, and military intelligence officers, known collectively as the Case Breakers, has come.
Wow.
It's like, what should we call our club? The Case Breakers. It's like, did they like survey sixth graders to see what a good name would be?
Survey says
has come forward to claim that the identity of the mysterious killer may have finally been found. According to the team, the Zodiac Killer was Air Force veteran Gary Francis Post, who died in 2018. Their conclusion is based on a number of things, including similarities between Post's photograph and a 1969 police sketch, as well as the solutions to some of the killer's encrypted messages. Not everyone is convinced by the team's findings, however, with federal police investigators maintaining that the evidence is not conclusive and that the case continues to remain unsolved. The Zodiac Killer case remains open, the FBI told the San Francisco Chronicle. We have no new information to share at the moment. But that is quite a resemblance. Are those, I mean, are these two witness sketches, or is this one of these guys, the retired guy or the Air Force guy that died? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because they're both drawn by the same person, so
right.
The signature's the same.
Yes,
I mean, that's pretty obvious, the signature. So,
so fancy his work looking the same, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Well, so he did two sketches, a description, and then he sketched one of this person who,
I think so.
Why didn't they just put a picture next to it?
Right.
I mean, but we are talking about a 52-year-old case now. So
sure. Yeah. Well, it is strikingly similar, though.
Oh, witness sketches. Yes, that's right. That's what they said.
Yeah. So it's hard to say. But interesting enough, maybe it's been solved. Maybe that can put that one to bed. But here's one I thought was kind of interesting, because I'd never heard of this before. And I was like, what? Did they really used to do this? And this is coming from unexplained-mysteries.com. And they said, how did the Easter Islanders drink seawater? Researchers have taken a fresh look at how the island's inhabitants drank water directly out of the ocean. One of the mysteries that met the first Europeans to reach the enigmatic Easter Island was how its inhabitants were able to drink water straight out of the sea. Normally, seawater is not fit for human consumption, but in this case, it seems that some of the water situated around the island's coastline contained very little salt and could be drunk directly. Oh. It was later discovered that this was made possible by coastal seeps, which happen when rainwater sinks down through the porous bedrock of the island and into the underground aquifer. Small pockets of fresh water can trickle down to the sea and are deposited into the ocean. Now, using drones and modern thermal imaging technology, researchers from Binghamton University in New York have been able to locate these freshwater pockets of coastal seep, enabling a much greater understanding of the process involved. It's somewhat salty, but not unpalatably salty, said study leader Robert DiNapoli. It's just not the best tasting water, basically. For the early inhabitants of Easter Island, these freshwater pockets would have served as a lifeline at times when the island's only bodies of drinking water dried up in the summer months. They were faced with a very difficult place to live, and they came up with these interesting strategies for survival, said DiNapoli. Without this phenomenon, in fact, it might not have been possible for anyone to live there at all. Huh. Well, that's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that. Right?
No, the water being fresh near its coast, that's kind of unheard of.
Yeah, I think so too. But I guess it happened. They were smart enough to sort that out. Gotta give the ancient people a lot of credit. They sorted a lot of stuff out that still gives us trouble to this day.
Right.
And some of the answers are deceptively simple and things like that. It's just seeping rainwater takes a while to work through the porous rock and then into the ocean. So if they could figure out where that was, I guess they got water.
It's like the one little small, I don't even know what it is. Had the one little outlet into the ocean, and they found one that they could drink out of. Yeah. Or was it like an entire coastline? Like a
I don't know.
So
very strange, very cool though. All right, here's the next one, and this is for those of you that have trouble keeping up with the expenses of traveling. There might be another route for y'all, and I don't know how much of a viable solution this is, but apparently it's been done. Man successfully crosses Atlantic in a barrel.
Oh, jeez.
This is from 2019. This is going in the Wayback Machine here a little bit. But Frenchman Jean-Jacques Savin achieved the ambitious ocean crossing in his custom barrel-shaped capsule. Well, this is it. That's not just a barrel. If this is a picture, that really looks like a pretty robust living conditions for a barrel. It's a big barrel. The 71-year-old who set off on his journey from Canary Islands on December 26, 2018, has finally reached the Dutch Caribbean island of St. Eustatius after more than 4 months at sea. Equipped with a bunk, a kitchen, storage space, and even a porthole at the bottom for viewing fish, this unusual vessel had no means of self-propulsion and simply floated along at the whim of the tide. Savin, who is no stranger to adventure, having previously worked as a military paratrooper, had been hoping to reach his destination by March, but ultimately took a month longer to get there. His remarkable journey across the Atlantic saw him cover a staggering 2,930 miles. Everything has an end. Finally, here I am at the end of this adventure, he wrote. Wow. Yeah, that's his capsule right there. That's the barrel. And for those of you that are just listening out there, it really looks like a tube about the size of a car, without the engine block and stuff. So I mean, it is
take an SUV and flip it around really fast. It's that big,
and inside it looks like you're inside of a sailboat. Really, it looks much like that inside the barrel. I don't know. Barrel's a pretty ambitious term for this. I was thinking
yeah, it's a capsule.
Yeah, this is a capsule, not a barrel, but I guess it is what it is. I don't know.
Tomato, tomato.
Tomato, tomato, potato, tomato. Potato, tomato, I said. It came out sideways and I just rolled with it. So now here's one from the dumb files. This should be a new segment on the show. The dumb files. This is another old one, but it's man survives plunge into Hawaiian volcano. A visitor to Hawaii's Kilauea volcano got more than he bargained for after climbing over the safety railings. Yeah, you're already looking for problems if that's the case. It's like, really? It says the 32-year-old soldier who had scaled the railings of Steaming Bluff Overlook to get a better look at the volcano's caldera lost his footing and plummeted over the edge of the 300-foot drop. His miraculous survival has been attributed to the fact that he happened to land on a tiny 2-foot-wide ledge around 70 feet down. A rescue team used ropes, a stretcher, and a helicopter to winch the man to safety. He was described as alive, but dumber than hell. No, it doesn't say that. But seriously injured. By officials, however, his condition is now believed to be stable. Visitors should never cross safety barriers, especially around dangerous and destabilized cliff edges, said Chief Ranger John Broward. Crossing safety barriers and entering closed areas can result in serious injuries and death. Yeah, that's just all kinds of dumb.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh. Well, at least he made it. I don't think thinking was probably what they were doing much of. Tragic. Very tragic. But I don't know what to tell you, folks. There's a fresh one in every barrel. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude tonight's presentation of the Paranormal Portal News. Boom. Well, there you have it, folks. We just explored the news. Yeah, I don't know.
The news.
This image isn't working again over here either. I wonder if it's just going to take a second to wake up or what the deal is. As changing scenes, I learn more every time. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to our first break of the night here as, we edge ever closer to that. I guess I can just pull up this one. But we will be back. We constantly return. So if you're needing a break, go get a beverage, get a libation of your choice, turn down the lights and get ready because it's going to get creepy up in here. We got a lot of ground to cover. And remember, if you're thinking of wanting to call in, you can do that. 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. Those are the numbers for fun here on the portal. So, without further ado, we're going to go to break. We'll be right back in just a couple minutes and get back at it. Wait for us here. Wow. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
I don't know where that came
Weird.
from. Huh. That's a new one. But there's a lot of new going on tonight, ladies and gentlemen. There are some issues on tfrlive.com, and of course Friday and Saturday nights we are tied into the network as well. So I'm not sure if those sound artifacts were from that or from something else. But at any rate, we're back. And
We're back.
This starts the second half hour of the show. So we got another hour and a half of fun to get to here. But we got a lot of ground to cover until then. So let's get right off to it. Again, remember, if you want to call in, the number for the show is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. So that's 00. That's right. 0500. That's the numbers. And if you want to call in and you have a paranormal experience of your own, we'd be happy to hear from you. Otherwise, if you don't really want to be on the show, it kind of freaks you out to be live on the show, then by all means, you can email to us at the Paranormal Portal. And you do that by emailing paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. I got this thing happening with my headphones, Don. It's very weird.
Oh, what's wrong with your headphones?
Well, if I bump my belly against my cord into the desk, they die. They go absolutely almost mute. And I don't know. What?
Oh my.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm following the logic here. You bump your belly into the desk and it makes your headphones go mute.
Yeah, because my cord is hanging like in front of my desk. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. Very strange. But I can't I can't duplicate it like with my hands, and there's no breaks in the cord or anything, but it's just this weirdness. It's the portal. What do you get? You get what you get, folks. That's all we got here. Let me do this. All right. Oh, you're back. You're back on the screen now.
Yeah.
Okay.
That kind of looks familiar.
Right.
Kind of.
That's cool.
And you transitioned.
Yeah.
It just transitioned.
Yeah, well, there's the delay, right? So you get the delay as everything comes over. But yeah, interesting stuff. But we're going to get to a lot more of the paranormal fun that you've come to trust from us. And to do that, we're going to start out here with an article that we've been covering for a bit. And this is from Factinate.com. And these are real-life supernatural encounters. And this has been a really fun list because there's some pretty great ones on here. But we've been chopping away at it over several shows. So I figured, well, let's chop away some more. What do you think, Don?
Sweet. Let's start chopping there, Tin Man. I don't know.
It was good for me. I appreciated that.
Okay.
But we're on number 40 of this list. And this is disappeared between cameras. It says I was, let me see. How do I get this up on the screen? I guess we can go like this. Okay.
Oh, just drag it over my face again.
I'll see if I can bring you up. There you are. You and I we're stacked. We're stacked right here. Isn't that cool? It needs some work, but anyway, it's kind of working. It says I was working as night security for a small office in a sanitation plant. The building had a single entrance and you had to check in at the security station to get in or out. One night, a worker shows up and checks in saying he needs to take care of a few things and grab some stuff. So I check in his ID and flip a few lights on for him and then go back about my business. Fast forward a few hours and my shift is about to end. I still haven't seen the guy come back, so I go patrol the building to find him and literally can't find him anywhere. He's not in any of the areas. I turn on lights for him, no other lights are on, and he's not in any other rooms. I stop by security to see if we just missed each other, and he's trying to leave, but nobody's there. I do a second patrol and still no signs. At this point, I want to check out the cameras to see where he went, but he's not on a single camera, except the one covering the entrance and security station. He turns down a hallway and never shows up on the next camera down the said hall. At this point, I logged it as an incident and got out right as the relief shift showed up. Next day, my boss calls me and says that the worker had been on vacation out of state for several days. and wouldn't be returning for several more. Nobody could offer an explanation as to what happened. Weird. That's pretty intense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What would you do, Don? Somebody shows up that shouldn't be there?
It's like that. It's like that one story. Well, a story that we've read before. I mean, I'm sure it's quite a bit like a lot of them. But it's I went outside to have a smoke, and this person was there, and they bummed a smoke from me, and then I go back inside and say, yeah, I just saw so and so, but somebody told me they've been dead for a week. So
Right.
It's kind of along those lines. It's like, well, okay, something's happening.
Something strange going on here. But this guy was actually alive still.
Well, that's good.
He's just on vacation. So he wasn't even in the area. Weird. I don't know. That was offered by Dune Manta. Dune Manta? Okay. Excuse me. Sorry. I just had to eat a piece of gum or something because I'm getting dry. Getting froggy.
Really?
Yeah. Number 41, by a stair's breadth. One night, I was about 16 years old. I'd finally decided to get off my computer and go to bed around 2 a.m. If memory serves me correctly, anyway. At that time, my family and I lived in a decently sized 2-story house. The staircase to the second floor was pretty basic. Head up a few steps, turn on a landing halfway up, traverse the remaining few steps. And at the top, you're only a couple footfalls from my bedroom door. Someone please explain to me then how I got lost on this staircase. Sure, it was dark, but even if you'd have to be a special kind of stupid to not know how to walk up these stairs after you've already done it 1,000 times before. Just keep one hand on the railing and you don't need to use your eyes. I swear that as soon as I reached the landing, I spent 10 minutes just continually walking upwards. Realistically, it only takes someone 5 to 7 seconds to walk up these stairs. 3 if they're running or skipping steps. I realized I've been walking for much longer than that and stopped. At that point, my blood ran cold. I'd walked up those stairs in pitch black darkness so many times before, but even with my hand on the railing, I was getting nowhere, just endlessly walking upwards. My skin crawled. If my brother hadn't turned on the upstairs hall light, I'm not sure I would have made it to my bedroom. The guy blinked sleepily at me and asked me if I was okay, and all I could say was, I legitimately have no idea. I told him the next day what had happened, and he told me that the reason he'd come out of his room in the first place was that he'd heard footsteps on the stairs for several minutes. What in the world, man? What was that? I wasn't so tired that I was just mindlessly walked up and down the stairs for a while. I was completely awake. And not once did it suddenly feel like I'd turned around to walk back downstairs at any time. I still get chills thinking about this. That was by Surly Kerr. So is that a space anomaly, you suppose? Yeah? I mean,
time slip? I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird one because it's kind of like those horror movies, right? Where you got to get to the end of the hall, and then as you're running, the hall stretches way out. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Is like what that would be like the real life equivalent of that. Like you only got 5 steps to go up, and as you're going up, suddenly there's 300. It's like what?
Or trying to walk up the down escalator. You just never get anywhere with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So, yeah.
So
whatever's going on there, that is creepy. Now, I can honestly say that's the first time I've ever heard a story like that. I don't think I've ever heard another story like that.
Yeah, no, me neither. Yeah, not the endless hallway kind of thing.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Number 42, oh brother, where art thou? I live in a city and my brother lives in another city that's around 1,000 kilometers away. He visits sometimes, but not quite often. On an average of once every 2 years. One day around 7 years ago, I was sleeping on the couch in the living room at my apartment. I woke up suddenly and my brother was sitting just beside me. Well, I was shocked and surprised and started greeting him and asking him about how he is doing and what a pleasant surprise it was. Next thing I realized that this was a dream as the doorbell was ringing, which woke me up. I went to open the door, and guess what? It was my brother who came to surprise us. This literally had me speechless. Don't have any explanation, and I think sometimes you don't need to have one. That was way weird. Del Girella. 8818. Well, that's a nice surprise, but it kind of got spoiled a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. Number 43, a tiny visitor. This happened probably 5 years ago. I was asleep in my room. My eyes suddenly opened at about 2:30 a.m. I was wide awake. My senses were heightened, and it felt like someone or something was in my room, in the darkness. I saw an outline of something underneath my desk. It was almost like a really tiny man, maybe a foot tall, give or take. House gnome, maybe house gnome, Don.
Domovoy.
Domovoy, yeah. At this point, I'm totally perplexed, but not really scared until I see it start to move out from under the desk and across my room. The light switch is right next to my bed, so I decided that in one motion I was going to turn on the light switch and jump on this thing the second it got near my bed. This thing gets near my bed, but I messed up and fumbled with the light switch. I also missed when I dove at it, but I kid you not, I watched this thing move through my bedroom wall. I just sat on my bed trying to figure out what had happened. Little did I know this nightmare was just beginning. Now, my brother had the room right next to mine, right behind the wall this thing went through. About 10 minutes later, my brother knocks on my door and comes in. The first words out of his mouth were, "Did you happen to see a tiny human in here like a little bit ago?" I was pretty shocked, and I told him that I indeed had, and he replied with, "Well, I just watched something dart across my room, and it looked like it came from the wall and then disappeared through the wall and to the outside." To say I was stunned would be an understatement, but I was also thrilled that I didn't have psychosis. But but a little while later, perhaps a year passes, and I'm driving my car, listening to some late night radio hosts, and he had a guest on. The guest proceeds to describe something that happened to him, and it was almost exactly what my brother and I experienced. It could be, maybe it is like a house gnome or something that people talk about. That's pretty wild. Right through the wall.
Yeah.
Don. Right through the wall. I don't know. That was by...
What was I
What?
Just watching something the other day. What the heck was I watching? I can't remember. Maybe it was like a borrower or something.
Okay. The Borrowers.
Remember the borrowers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I do. I do. I love those movies. And truth be told, I like the idea that, these little things are around too. I think that's a pretty cool thought. As long as you don't get one of the jerky ones, that really messes with you. I don't know. Sorry, I got to add more gum. It's actually working though. It's made me less hoarse.
So what if what if you have like a brownie and you offend or upset the brownie and they go all like, bogart on you and then you have to feed them like crackers and honey to get them to settle down.
That could be work. That could work. That was from Robin's page. Yeah. That porridge or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you guys ever get a chance, check out, what is it? Strange Realms. Yep. Is that .net or .com? I can't remember. But
I think it's .com. I don't know. So let me find it.
Okay. But our friend Robin Moonshadow has this site, and she deals with proto-pygmies and little people and stuff, and does research them and researches the stories, researches places where they've been known to be seen. And she has some great information on her page. But it's Strange Realms. He also has a Facebook group, Strange Realms, and just a wealth of information. But there is apparently ways to appease these things if you believe you have them around. And one of which she gave us like this porridge recipe that it was from some country where they deal with these things a lot. So I'm paraphrasing completely because I can't remember the specifics. but it was like a sweet porridge of some kind that you'd prepare in a specific way and leave out for them. Did you find it?
No, I'm having trouble finding it. Yeah, I don't know if it's Strange Realms. Well, here, let's do this. Something from Tampa, Florida. No, that's not it. Oh, interesting.
Puckwudgies will sneak up on you and give you a wedgie. That was by Paradox Fossils. I don't think that's why they got that name. I don't think. As the brownie gets mad at you, it's like the borrower's meats die hard. That's what Rachel says. Yeah, that's not good. Don't piss off any brownies, folks. Let's see.
But they are good with ice cream.
I'm sure they are indeed. Yes, they are. That was by JQB10. Let's go to the next one. We'll get back to you about the URL there, folks. But number 44 is Big Black Coffin. When I was little, this woman came to clean my house, and I'll call her Mary. She was also my babysitter while my parents were working, and usually after she finished cleaning, she would bring me to her house until my mom would come and pick me up there. There during the year, I got to know her whole family. Among these was her husband, whom I'll call Dave. So Dave was a pretty cool guy. He was just an average older guy that you would find in any rural town. He liked to drink with his friends at the bar, go hunting, and he had a lot of good and interesting stories to tell when I was a kid. After all these years that we spent together, he basically considered me as a grandson. So after knowing Dave for all these years, I had a dream one night, and in the dream, Mary was coming to my house to clean as she did every other week, but this time there was a big difference. In my living room, there was a closed black coffin. When I asked her what that was, what was in there, and she looked at me and said in a sad tone, "Dave is inside of there." Now, if that wasn't strange enough, I remember waking up later that night, feeling a presence to the side of my bed, and I distinctly remember having said, while still half asleep, "Come on, Dave, let me get back to sleep." The next morning when I woke up, my parents told me that Mary had called, saying that Dave had died that night. To this day, I still haven't told anyone about it, and I'm still a bit freaked out from the whole story. Wow, that was by Uzo99. Poor Dave. Well, at least he left a good imprint in his life on this boy or this child. All right, number 45, Lost and Found. I was about 18 or 19 and at the time worked an hour away from home. It was a commute of 2 bus rides, a train ride, and then a 15-minute walk. As it was, in a lawyer's office, I used to take my sneakers to walk in rather than my work shoes. One morning I got up, took my watch off, had a shower, all as normal. I got out and couldn't find my watch for anything. I was searching everywhere, pulling everything out of the bathroom cabinets, etc. Eventually, I just gave it up as a bad job and carried on with my day. I got to work, told my boss I'd lost my watch, and was paranoid the whole time that I would be late. He looked up and said, It's in your right Adidas." He followed me to my desk, and my watch was in my sneakers. The sneakers I'd just taken off after 2 bus journeys, a train ride, and a 15-minute walk. I have no idea how it came to be in there or how my boss knew. He said he didn't know why he said it. It just came out of his mouth before he could think of what he was saying. That's an apport, right? That's an apport. That was by Frankie0924. You'd think you'd know if there was a watch in your sneakers, wouldn't you, Don?
Well, well, yeah. I mean, if it's actually in your sneakers while you're walking, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. Strange, but that's what we do here on the portal, folks.
Strange.
Very strange, yeah.
Strangerealms.net.
Strangerealms.net, folks. That's the website for Robin Moonshadow's group dealing with proto-pygmies and little people. Not with fairies, though. She doesn't do fairy research, so don't look for the fae information on the fae there. But she does do gnomes, puckwudgies, duendes, stick Indians, several different things, gnomes, goblins. all that small diminutive creature fare, but not the fae. So very good work though. She's been a guest on our show many times, and you can find her appearances in our archives on YouTube or on tfrlive.com, either one. So let's go to the next one. 2 daughters, 1 message. 4 years ago, my daughter was sleepwalking. She walked into my room while my wife and I were asleep. She nudged me and said, "Dad isn't breathing." I was like, "Honey, I'm fine. I'm right here and I'm okay." She replied with, "He won't wake up. Why won't Dad wake up?" I told her that I was awake and I was talking to her. She then turned around and went back to bed. It was 2:11. The next morning I was at work just talking and getting ready for the day at 8-ish, and my boss came over and informed us that one of our coworkers had passed in the night. We're talking about this and we asked how and when, and my boss said that he told us he passed away from a heart attack around 2 a.m. At this point, I have to sit down and try to remember when my daughter had come into our room saying everything she said. At the time, my deceased coworker was remodeling his new home, and his wife was staying at her mom's house. His daughter was staying with him as her school was closer to the new home and could drop her off before coming to work. His daughter was sleeping in the bed with him due to it being a new house and being a little scary at the time. So it turned out it was the little girl that found her father after his heart attack. I still think about that one today. But my daughter has no recollection of ever coming into the room that night. My daughter and his daughter had become good friends from playing softball together. All I could think of was that my daughter was somehow channeling to me what her friend was saying about her own dad. My daughter was 5 at the time, and her daughter my daughter and her remain friends, but she no longer plays softball, as that was their thing. She seems to be doing better after counseling and being the one that found him that night. My wife and his wife have remained friends as well, and she still struggles with it. Their son, on the other hand, has had severe problems and refused counseling. Yeah, that's tough. That was by Chai Townsley. That's pretty creepy. Pretty weird, man. Those kids pick up all kinds of stuff. Number 47 on our list, press the reset button twice. This will be the last one before the break. Oh, man. I don't even think I can read this before the break. I'll have to come back to this one, folks. This is not a 3-minute story. This is about a 8-minute story. So I'll have to come back to it. And we got a lot of other things to cover tonight as well. We're going to be talking about some Bigfoot reports. We're going to be talking about some Brent Swanser before the night is over. So I think when we come back, we'll talk about a Brent Swanser article, and then we'll close out with some Bigfoot reports from phantomsandmonsters.com. And great stuff on the board tonight. So hang with us. For those of you that are used to following the Paranormal Portal with the spaces between, there won't be a spaces between tonight. So
nope, not tomorrow either, by the way.
Yeah, so this weekend there will be no new spaces betweens, but if you tune in to TFR, you'll probably catch a rebroadcast, or you can check out her archives on YouTube, youtube.com/thespacesbetween, to check out one of her previous shows. Lots of great information there. If you've not checked it out, definitely do so. She does a wonderful job, and it's a fun show. So, just so that you're all up on current events, but we're down to the 2-minute mark, Don.
2 minutes already? Yep. To the hour?
To the hour. It's moving. It's cruising. We're moving through the night. But, yeah, I mean, things like the story of that little child, I don't know. That's got to be, do you think it's just because they're so wide open that they just pick this stuff up, Don?
Yeah, they have no filters. They haven't been taught to, ignore things around them, So yeah, I think that's why. They're just more open and absolutely.
Absolutely, folks. There's 2 Dons on the screen now, as if one wasn't enough. We got double Don. We're double Donned.
Oh no.
Oh no, there's 2 of them. Yep, we're double bearded here, folks. So yeah, I got a lot of work to do, brother. We're going to make this portal all fresh and new and pretty.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we owe you guys the best after all. And
sounds like the Love Boat. Exciting and new.
Don't you give me a copyright strike on that one. If it's Nirvana or something, I'll roll with it. But if you give me Love Boat strike, oh my God. I don't even want to be known at YouTube as the copyright Love Boat guy. Because you got to be careful nowadays, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, we got a lot of fun stuff yet to go through tonight. There is, what is it? This weekend, the new podcast will be an interview with Travis, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And, I got to talk to you after the show too. Remind me, because we got to do a little bit of an edit for that because we got to read. But that'll be coming out tomorrow. No, Sunday night. God, it's Friday night, isn't it? So we got a lot of things on the board lately, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of new developments coming out, and I'm really excited to be able to unveil them, but I can't quite yet. But we're at the hour break, so don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the Paranormal Portal in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart. Raging anger boils inside me, and their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
How do you like that? We are.
Oh no.
What's that?
I don't know.
We're into hour number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, just got to wait for the network to catch up with us because they're still doing the bumper stuff that we can't hear. Usually I just play it on the show here on YouTube as well, but they're not coming through the host end anymore, at least not this weekend. So we'll just bide our time waiting until it comes in. So, how you guys doing? Everybody happy? Enjoying the show? I sure hope so. I'm enjoying doing it. Are you enjoying the show, Don?
Yes, I'm loving it. I forget where to look though because this is Paisley's camera. I'm not using my camera, so it's weird.
You're looking just fine.
I don't know where to look.
You're doing good. Just keep aiming that way, and you'll be looking in the camera. Yep,
There.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. We're getting close here. Getting close to when the network's going to pick us back up. I'm just watching. Anybody heard any good jokes? No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to load that one up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
What was it?
Well, I was going to say, you said anybody heard any good jokes, and as from what I understand, there's that new movie with The Rock and someone I can't remember, but it's called Jungle Cruise. It's a Disney movie, and apparently there's just dad jokes all the way through it. So, if you want jokes, go watch Jungle Cruise.
Go watch the Jungle Cruise. That's funny.
Now we need paid for that.
Yeah, we should get paid for it just for mentioning it. We're plugging Disney here, folks. We're coming up in the world, but I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad or otherwise. But anyway, folks, we are live and in the hour number 2 of the Paranormal Portal now. So you got another full hour of putting up with us. So hope you didn't have any other plans because we're going to occupy all your time that you'll let us. We are going to get into an article now written by our good friend, Mr. Brent Swancer. And he's a paranormal journalist like no other. I've loved this guy's articles for as long as I've been doing the portal anyway. Long before I ever knew the man, I was always blown away by his work, and I'm still blown away. He'll come up and he links me on all of his new articles. And I got an echo that time. Is that you?
It might have been. I pushed a weird button.
Don't play with buttons, Don.
Stop pushing buttons.
Haven't you learned anything on the portal? When we push buttons, bad things happen. But he does a great job. He always introduced me to new phenomena I had no idea about, and he continues to do that. But you can keep up with Brent Swancer or get to know the guy, and you simply have to look for his group on Facebook, and it's Dark League Paranormal. You can go to Dark League Paranormal group on Facebook. That is Brent Swancer's group, and he always showcases his articles there. He also posts them over on our Paranormal Portal fans page if you want to catch up on his newest articles there. But I love covering his work because it's just a fantastic guy. And his work is showcased on mysteriousuniverse.org. And if you're not familiar with mysteriousuniverse.org, get familiar with it if you're into Paranormal 40 and topics, because it is really a place of thousands of amazing articles and information on all of this strange phenomena from missing 411 to ghosts to cryptids to everything in between, UFOs. It's all there. And there's not only Brent Swancer writing for this site, but Paul Seberg, who else am I thinking of, Don? The cryptozoologist, Nick Redfern.
Yeah, Nick Redfern.
Redfern writes over there. There's so many good writers. So check out their work. But we're going to deal with an article now from mysteriousuniverse.org. And this is from Brent Swancer. And he is bringing us the article Paranormal Encounters Along the Appalachian Trail. This is from January 15th of 2019. So this isn't necessarily a new one, but all of his work is great. Old, new, otherwise it's all amazing. So let's get to this now. So sprawled out across a vast swath of eastern North America, spanning 1,500 miles or 2,400 kilometers, from the island of Newfoundland all the way down to central Alabama, the Appalachian Mountains, also called just the Appalachians, is one of the great mountain ranges of the continent. Formed over 480 million years ago, the Appalachians are also among the oldest mountains in North America, with their now relatively modest average height of 3,000 feet, once soaring to jagged heights to rival those of the Rocky Mountains before countless aeons of tirelessly wore them down to their present size. Meandering through this wilderness is the Appalachian Trail, which at a total of 2,200 miles long is the longest hiking trail in the world, passing through 14 states: Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, with an extension called the International Appalachian Trail continuing northeast across Maine, cutting through Canada to Newfoundland, and with sections continuing into Greenland, through Europe, and into Morocco. Among the millions of people who hike this trail every year, there are sometimes tales of the bizarre and the paranormal, and here are some of the stranger of these, as well as several haunted places along the longest trail in the world. A very bizarre report comes from the site Blue Ridge Outdoors and is told by a witness named Brad Lane. The odd experience supposedly happened in the summer of 2011 when he was out backpacking along the trail near Catawba, about 15 miles from Newcastle, Virginia, camping out along the way. Over the course of these lonely nights, he claims that on several occasions he was kept awake by what sounded like footsteps crunching about outside, as well as what he describes as the grumble of a voice talking to itself. He convinced himself that it was all just his ears playing tricks on him, but on another evening he saw something that would disturb him. He says, "I managed to collect a fair amount of firewood, and by the time nightfall came, I had a small fire going with a good collection of firewood piled beneath me. Under the reassuring light of the campfire, I started to become more at ease with the deafening silence of nature. I pulled a cigarette from my pocket and enjoyed a casual smoke as I put my feet up. When I tried to ditch the butt in my weakened flame, my throw was off, and it landed just outside of the ashes. I got up to fix my mistake and to stoke the fire when I turned around to go back to my seat, and I saw him. The light was low with my little fire, but I could clearly see a man reaching down with a scorched hand for my firewood. He wore red plaid with large black burns tearing at his trim and red ashy beard that smoldered at his face. He quickly looked up, and his vacant white eyes connected with mine. He gritted his teeth, scrunched his nose towards me before quickly leaving the ring of firelight. I was shocked. I've never experienced a fear like it. I fell right onto my butt next to the flames, and I looked out into the forest and saw nothing but dark shadows and unclear objects. A blank wall of nothing, of everything. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even yell. No one to hear me but him. So I did what every red-blooded American would do. I packed up my things and got the hell out of Dodge. He kept on until dawn, continuing in his rush to get out of there for hours before he grew tired and stopped for a moment. He did not seek sleep, but sleep found him. He would awaken 3 hours later when his journey of the bizarre would continue. He says, "I awoke to 2 or 3 hours later, for the sun had dropped down considerably, and a funny smell filled my nostrils. I blinked several times, and when the funny smell persisted, I shot off my back with my heart beating to the sound of something troubling. What I saw was my tent, or what remained of my tent, for now the only thing left standing was the tent poles that dripped with oozing leftovers of my tent body. A bubbly layer of melted green plastic lay beneath the poles, and a steady gray smoke still rising from the mess. I got up and felt the weight of the sky fall on my head. For a moment I was sure I had woken up into a terrible nightmare. Without contemplating it much further, I grabbed my water bottle and ran through the empty pasture. By the time I made it to the gravel road, I was out of breath and dripping with sweat. I hastily chugged my water bottle and wiped my mouth. Down the road, I could see a vehicle parked in the dust. I staggered forward with my hands on my sides and soon realized it was a sheriff's sedan. And for the first time in a long time, I couldn't have been happier to see a law enforcement vehicle. When I got closer to the vehicle, I noticed that it was parked outside of the remains of a charred house. Nothing left standing but a mailbox out front. On the way into town, I didn't tell the officer about my experience, being afraid that he might think I escaped from the loony bin, and instead asked him about the burned-down house which he had been parked in front of. The sheriff explained to me that 4 days prior, the same day I started my trip, the house had burned down. They had no known cause for the fire, but there was an indication of arson. 2 daughters, a wife, and her husband were all in the house when the fire started, and none of them made it out. Real tragic stuff, the sheriff said as he retold the story, and I could only shake my head with the bottom jaw hanging low. Is this just a spooky urban legend in the making or something else? Another report mentioned on the site Phantoms and Monsters apparently happened in the mid-1980s when the witness was at a shelter one December along the Appalachian Trail in Amherst County, Virginia, along with his son and their dog Ginger. As they relaxed at their camp talking, they saw something very odd indeed come shambling out of the wilderness. The witness would say of what happened next. The figure came down within 100 feet. The thing was tall and wore a dark brown fur coat. I was aware of Ginger's barking changing to something that I had never heard from her before that event nor after. Without thinking, I called out to the figure to come over and have some hot drink. That's when things got very difficult to explain. First, the creature turned to face us. Its face looked human in shape, but not human in appearance. It turned its whole body. When the creature looked at us is when Ginger's barking changed. Her hind legs appeared uncontrollable. Her sounds were not barking sounds, but a gurgling noise. She was in great pain. I momentarily focused on Ginger, reaching down to her, which did not stop her suffering. I looked to the creature, who returned to continuing its long athletic strides, taking it out of sight very quickly. Ginger resumed her barking, her aggression warning, but not the same as before, that the thing had turned to face us. My son said, "Dad, what just happened to Ginger?" I was thinking, what did that thing do to Ginger when it was 100 feet away? I was not fearful, and Ginger was a handful of golden retriever. We spent a cold night with Ginger and alerts the entire time. When we made our way to the warmth of my car the next morning, Ginger curled up with my son in the back seat and slept for a 3-hour drive home. I've since learned that the area had a fall and winter with dogs making a lot of noise at night, with a large number going missing. A calf got missing without a trace. The owner was uncommitted as to what was going on, but said his grandfather had a story about the brown man. He had not seen anything, but neighbors had. Something dreadful happened at that shelter in August of 2011. A hiker was found dead and half buried. It's now April of 2016, and I have not heard of an arrest. I'm interested if there are any similar accounts of these things harming dogs. I am a skeptic looking for an explanation for Ginger's actions other than Bigfoot having mind control capability over dogs, and maybe humans too. What was going on here? On the site Your Ghost Stories, there is another very paranormal experience from the Appalachian Trail that supposedly happened in the state of Pennsylvania. The witness was only around 10 years old at the time, backcountry camping along the trail with their father and mother. They settled down for the night in a clearing, and that was when she began to sense that something was rather off about the whole scene. She says, "I looked up to my mother to notice that she was pale, and her hand was tightly grasping mine. 'Todd, can we set up camp somewhere different?' my mother asked, still clutching my tiny hand. She was not liking the vibe of the woods were giving, and I sensed it too. I was afraid. My father shook his head. It's getting late. I'm not searching for firewood in the dark. I remember asking to go home. The small clearing seemed to give an ominous vibe. After hot dogs and marshmallows, we crawled into the 6-person tent my father had purchased. My father fell asleep in mere minutes, but my mother and I could not sleep. Emma, are you asleep? I lifted my head. No, Mama, I'm scared. I can't sleep. Hush, it's fine. We're safe inside the tent, she comforted. I finally fell asleep and woke up in the early hours of the morning. I came out of the tent and saw my mother sitting on the ground, meditating. She meditated every morning with a cup of Earl Grey tea. I came up to her and tapped her shoulder. Mama, can we have a talk? Or can we take a walk? Mother opened her eyes and got to her feet. Sure, let's not go too far. I don't want Daddy to worry. We hiked near our campsite, and then my mother suddenly stopped. I followed her gaze to see a hazy image of a man leaning against a birch tree about 20 feet away. He was just a hazy image, but he did not seem threatening, just calm and solemn. He lifted his head, looked in our direction. I rubbed my eyes, and he was gone. My mother just looked at me, and I understood that the man was not threatening, just calm and sad. After that, I've never seen a ghost, but I will never forget him. Never. Just as creepy is an account posted on Your Personal Ghost Stories with a witness who says that they had been backpacking along the trail with a group of friends when he would have his unsettling experience. One morning, he says, they woke up to the unsettling sound of children's laughter emanating from all around their camp. Odd considering that they were out in the middle of nowhere. As they peered into the early morning mist, they say that a procession of kids suddenly walked by who asked them what they were doing out there. The baffled witnesses answered that they were hiking the Appalachian Trail, to which the mysterious children cheerfully replied, "This isn't the Appalachian Trail," before wandering off out of sight. According to them, they could hear children's laughter, taunting them from the trees and underbrush for the duration of their hike, although they never saw the children again. Oof, that's creepy. An earlier report comes from May of 1972 when a hiker was alone on the trail and noticed a thick fog gathering around him. Oh, you're not there anymore, Don.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, no, there you are. Maybe it's because you didn't talk for a while. I think I know what that problem is. I'll have to fix that.
That's right. Later. Yeah, because Skype does that when you're
not making noise. Yep. All right, let's get back to it. Just make a noise every once in a while.
Okay.
An earlier report comes from May of 1972 when a hiker was alone on the trail and noticed a thick fog gathering around him. When he peered off ahead of him, he noticed a tall black figure approaching, wearing a heavy coat and a wide-brimmed hat. The stranger seemed to be confused, looking about him as if he had lost something and was so absorbed with what he was looking for, that the two almost collided with each other. As they passed, the witness says that the figure looked up to him and met him with an icy electric blue eyes that penetrated a swell of dread within him. It was then he also realized that the stranger was wearing out-of-date period clothes, as if he had stepped in from another time period. The hiker says he tried to greet the odd fellow, but was ignored. As they passed each other, the witness turned to look back and found that the strange man had simply vanished. In a report from an Appalachian Trail enthusiast site called White Blaze, there is also the account of a poster who says he was camping along the trail one night near a place called Pierce Pond in the state of Maine when he saw something he will never forget. He says that as the flames caused the light to dance about him, he saw an unusual figure blossom out of the gloom, of which he says, "I always thought that there were logical or scientific answers for all of these paranormal phenomena, and probably always would have if not for the 2 nights I spent at Pierce Pond in June. Both nights were exquisite in temperature and weather, and no bugs, which at the time I found quite odd. In hindsight, it seems portent. I was alone, had a great campfire, and played my harmonica and sang the first night. As the embers dimmed, I sat on the edge of the lean-to, writing in my journal as the night sounds started to get my attention. They were just different, and I knew someone or something was about. I could feel it. Through the moonlight, I could see something that kind of took me aback, and I sat still as possible while trying to slouch in my sleeping bag. There's no doubt it was a figure that was moving across my sight, between me and the pond. It was definitely the form of a spectral, woodsy outdoorsman type with a small pack and what appeared to be fishing gear. The figure faded into the night, and I woke refreshed and relieved to be on the trail in such a beautiful location. I thought about heading out as my first experience like this had me unnerved, but the day was beautiful and I mostly forgot about it as I stayed on to enjoy another day. But as my campfire lit the trees around me that night, this same woodsy character reappeared, and as the fire crackled, its eyes turned towards me, and I was truly frightened for the first time in my life, and I ran up the hill away from the lean-to and didn't stop. I could barely breathe. I finally had to slump down next to a tree and wait for morning. When daylight came, I found my way back to the lean-to, packed up and went to Tim's for pancakes and told him of what I'd seen. He'd heard of this too. It seems for years this vision has been haunting a wide area of Maine, although he was unsure if it had ever actually caused any trouble. Yikes. Along the Appalachian Trail, there's also plenty of places that are said to be intensely haunted. One is a location known as Greenleaf Hut, located along the picturesque White Mountains, atop a place called Bluff Mountain in Virginia. The place itself is a quaint scenic locale, home to the so-called Punch Bowl shelter, and the only thing raising any concern being a marker that designates it as a place where a 4-year-old Otto Klein Powell died more than 100 years ago after going missing while out hunting for kindling. It is from here where we have been numerous reports of a ghostly child stalking amongst the wilderness, wandering about as if looking for something, and it has become entrenched in the lore of the area. Also in Virginia is a place called Sarver Cabin, built in the 1850s and well off the beaten path along the trail, and surrounded by feral wilderness. The crumpled ruins of the place are said to be haunted by a ghost called George, who is unidentified but makes his presence known to all who pass through. Another old batch of haunted crumbling ruins is an old homestead located within Big Ridge State Park, Tennessee. This place is once home to the Hutchinson family, where in the 19th century, one of the family's younger members, a young girl named Mary, had fallen ill. When neighbors came over to help, they reported hearing a dog running through the forest towards them, although they could not see it. It would soon become apparent that the girl had passed away at precisely the time they heard the spectral beast. And to this day, the area is supposedly haunted by a phantom hound and the ghost of a little girl. Go along the haunted Appalachian Trail, and you can also come to Compton's and Fox's Gap, as well as Spook Hill, where there were fierce battles waged in 1862 during the American Civil War. At the time, this was a place of absolute carnage and mayhem, leaving the area soaked with blood and littered with dead bodies, many of which did not receive a proper burial. There's also been intense paranormal activity ever since, with one of the most popular legends being that cars parked at Spook Hill will be pushed up the incline by unseen hands, and that ghostly handprints will appear upon vehicles. There are also numerous apparitions of Civil War-era soldiers seen here, and the whole area is apparently spook central. Whatever is going on here, it seems that this expanse of rugged wilderness is home to more than just scenic trails and unspoiled nature. What happened to these people? What did they see? What is it about this place that draws it to such forces? We may never know. Brilliant. He's just so brilliant.
And the stories are crazy too. I mean, some of them are like, well, okay, it was peeking at me from around the tree or whatnot. But when the ones that, yeah, then you got the good ones.
Yeah. The guy that the fire guy is the creepiest, I think. That whole burned down his tent and then the house just burned.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It is really nuts. Ladies and gentlemen, we are just perfect timing to take our first break, or our last break, as it were. And then we're going to come back and talk about some Bigfoot encounters as featured on Phantoms and Monsters. So we're going to check that out next. So I hope you're all ready, because the night's going to end strong here on the Paranormal Portal. I hope you guys are enjoying it, but stay tuned for sure. Again, just a quick couple-minute break, and we'll be back at it for the final 27 minutes of the show. So buckle up. It's going to get good. Right, Don?
Yes, sir. It's going to get good.
It's already been good, I hope, but it's going to get better, or at least as good as it's been. I don't know. We'll figure it out when we come back, I guess. But don't go away, folks. We'll be right back in just a couple seconds, couple minutes. You know, time. A little bit of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're almost back. Oops. There we go. Are you there, Don? Hello, Don.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
I just have to remember to mute myself.
There you go. We are live, ladies and gentlemen, back at it here on the Paranormal Portal. and we're all unmuted and ready to go. So I hope you're ready, because we have a few stories left on the roster of fun here on the Paranormal Portal. And yeah, okay, I didn't miss anything over there. Okay, good. Just keeping an eye on things. Trying to stay on top of the world as I know it. But now we're going to come back and we're going to discuss some of the favorite topic that we ever discuss here on the Portal, which is our listeners are definitely a Bigfoot enthusiastic crowd. There's no question. True. But Dogman as well. Dogman is definitely a big hot spot on our interest lists here on the Paranormal Portal as well. So we do our best to cover it all for you and bring you the best show we know how, which hopefully is pretty good. But we are going to be visiting an article right at this point, which is from phantomsandmonsters.com. And this is an article called Personal Bigfoot Encounters, Accounts in Tennessee, Utah, and California. So we're going to dive into this. And whatever time we got left, we'll revisit that other list with that longer story if we have time. So this is, again, from phantomsandmonsters.com. 3 separate and harrowing accounts of encountering a possible Bigfoot/Sasquatch in Tennessee, Utah, and California. If you have a sighting or story, feel free to contact Phantoms and Monsters. Yeah, they do a great job of documenting these over there, so that's definitely a site to go check if you're interested in more Bigfoot encounters. Of course, there's the BFRO. There's a couple other ones out there as well that are just repositories for claims. But I know that Lon and his team do look into a lot of these reports, just like the BFRO does. So let's take a look at this. It says, I recently came across the following accounts. When I was a child, my family and I went to a national park in Tennessee. Dad and I were walking a trail and enjoying the scenery. And that's when about halfway through the trail, we started hearing noises and such, like some weird grunts and some trees getting hit. My dad told me it was probably some deer fighting because sometimes it can sound like that, so I didn't get worried, and he and I kept walking down the trail. Well, we get to a point where my dad always holding my hand because I was a scared little kid, so what else can you do? And that's when we saw a reddish-brown Sasquatch. No kidding, it walked right in front of Dad and me. I remember Dad putting me behind him as the Sasquatch walked across the trail. He looked at us. But my dad's a bigger guy, being about 6 foot 6 inches and around 275 pounds at the time, and it was about 7 to 7.5 foot. I asked Dad years later why he didn't tell a ranger or anyone, and he said no one would believe us, and hell, I don't care if someone does. Dad and I do have a lot of Native American heritage too, so I don't know if that means anything. That was by CF. That's interesting. Very interesting. I don't know. I don't know if there is a breakdown anywhere of people with the First Nations heritage. Are they more likely to see Sasquatch, or do they have more encounters seeing Sasquatch as any other race? But I don't know. Maybe there's something to it.
Well, that's like when you were talking to Tom Seawood the other day.
Yeah.
And he mentioned, the cannibal, the First Nations referring to them as cannibals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, to be a cannibal and if you're a cannibal and you eat a human, that means you're some type of a human, right?
Right.
So,
yeah. And the First Nation references were that these were a different tribe. They were considered by many of the First Nations communities as another tribe of people, which I guess, they look like people in a lot of cases. Obviously, they're a lot more hairy and bigger, but they do seem to be pretty human-liking. And many hunters that have had them in their sights said, I couldn't shoot. It looked too human.
Right.
So there is something to that. Next one is a couple of years ago, I was on a week-long backpacking trip in the Uinta Mountains in Utah during late August. I spent my last 2 nights near Granddaddy Lake. Before I entered the basin, I encouraged 2 guys going the opposite direction, or encountered rather, and they informed me that they had been there for 4 days and hadn't seen another person. During that, it was very quiet there. When I arrived at the basin, I noticed it was very quiet and not much wildlife to be heard or seen, including birds. Anyhow, the first night and the next day were uneventful, and I hiked the perimeter of the lake, never encountering anyone else. The next day, a storm passed through the area, driving the temperature enough that it actually snowed and stuck to the ground. I was at around 10,000 feet or 3,000 meter elevation, so I hunkered down for the night in my tent as soon as the sun dropped behind the peaks. At about 2:30 a.m., I was awakened by a loud knocking sound to what seemed to be north of my camp. It took me a second to focus my attention, and then I heard what was an unmistakable whoop coming from the same direction. I laid in my sack quietly. Then again, I heard another whoop that seemed to be coming from further to the north. This was followed by a reply from what I'm guessing was the original individual. This went on for about 15 minutes, each time the sound drifting further to the north. Eventually, it went quiet again. Needless to say, I didn't sleep well the rest of the night. Yeah, I don't blame you. I had to be on the trail early the next morning to get back to my car, so I didn't have a chance to go and look for any physical evidence. I'm not saying it was a Sasquatch, but I've never heard anything like that before. And I've spent most of my life hiking, hunting, backpacking. I did some research on BFRO, and there have been a few reports in that area. Anyhow, that's my possible encounter. The next one is Big Sur. Is a mountainous area in south central California, situated on the edge of the Los Padres National Forest, which is almost 3,000 square miles large, and overlooking the Pacific Ocean on the western side. 3 friends and myself, ranging from 16 to 18 years old, who lived in nearby Salinas, had planned on driving to a secluded spot in Big Sur that we called Top of the World. This particular area of Big Sur wasn't frequented by people except for some occasional vehicle traffic from locals or the rare tourist hiker during the day, and was void of humans at night. At night there was of course critters, bobcat, fox, and even the occasional mountain lion. No people, no cops, perfect location for 4 party animals. We drove down the Pacific Coast Highway and turned off on Old Coast Road, which winds up into the mountains. The Old Coast Road is a hard-packed dirt road and former primary route in and out of Big Sur prior to the construction of the Bixby Bridge. Our spot, the Top of the World, was right off and above the dirt road with an amazing view of the Pacific Ocean. The spot was directly accessible from the old dirt road, which had steep cliffs on one side and the other a very deep ravine with the Bixby Creek or Little Sur River. I don't remember running through it. Well, the party was never even started because of the event I will now describe. I might add that the events of this night are burned into my memory. It was almost traumatic. With the exception of some exact conversations, I remember everything like it was just yesterday. Steve parked his mom's Chevy Vega at the base of the incline leading to our spot, grabbed some beers out of the hatchback, which we left open, and walked halfway up the very steep incline. The distance between where Steve's car was parked and the top of the hill was maybe 30 yards. What happened next all took place in a matter of seconds, but seemed like an eternity to me. We were sitting next to each other in a row facing the Pacific Ocean. Behind us was the crest of the hill about 15 yards up. Beyond that, the dark and foreboding forest looking out at the Pacific. Talking little and just taking in the beautiful view while sipping our beers, we got quiet and maybe a bit reflective. I know I did. It was beautiful. At one point, in the midst of silence, something weird happened. Later, when this is all over, we talked about the strange feeling that none of us had ever experienced. What happened was this. All of a sudden, we all looked at each other, and without speaking a word, as if every one of us was receiving an unspoken message or intuitive response to nature or a gut feeling, we simultaneously looked behind us at the top of the hill. And this is what we saw. There at the top, not 15 yards away, was a creature. It was simply standing there, observing us. I'll try my best to describe what we saw, despite the fact that it was almost midnight, which added to the creep factor, and our eyes were well acclimated to the darkness by then. This being was not human, I know that for sure. It just stood there, completely upright, arms to the side, facing our direction. Whether or not it was looking at us, I couldn't tell because, unfortunately, due to lighting conditions at this angle, I saw only the outline of the head and body, a very hairy head and body that was dark in color. No facial features that I can remember. There was a very long hair or fur flowing down from the head, but there was an opening where the face must have been. All I saw was darkness between the hair and the head. No eyes or other facial features. The head hair seemed to flow down and mixed with the rest of the body hair. I distinctly remember the arms. They were long but seemed to fit the size of the body. I don't recall them being overly long, like an ape, but they also had long flowing hair, as did the torso and legs. It was tall, maybe 7 feet, but that could have been because we were looking up at it. It was also very wide. It gave me the impression of great strength. It made absolutely no sound. Anyone that's been in combat or other life or death situation knows what I mean with fight or flight. Fight wasn't an option, obviously, so we did once again simultaneously what most humans would do: get the hell out of Dodge. We ran. I stumbled and fell because of the steep incline, and the guys made it to the car before me. I didn't even try to get in. Rather, I simply jumped into the open hatchback, and Steve started the Vega and gunned it. We only got 2 corners away from the Bigfoot before Steve lost control and went sliding over the side of a cliff. Thankfully, the first 20 yards of the drop was gradual and was overgrown with thick underbrush that slowed the car to a stop before dropping off the steep cliff into the creek below. We all climbed out, thanking our luck, and climbed back up to the road. Now, we had to make a choice. Walking back in the direction we came would only be 3 miles or so back to Highway 1, the Pacific Coast Highway. But that direction would also take us by the last place we saw the Bigfoot. The unanimous decision was to walk the other direction, which was 5 times as long to reach the highway. And that's how scared we were. It took us hours, but we made it, alive and healthy, with a story we could share with friends and family for the rest of our lives. And the name on that was withheld.
Wow.
That's pretty intense. It's so
Those
amazing.
are always the best ones, though.
It is, but it's so amazing when you think about it. When you think about the size, the how huge these beings are, and yet they can traverse the most impossible, noisy terrains without a sound.
Right.
And I can't imagine how they do it. Now, what I try to remember is, I think it's in Vietnam or some Asian country where they have these forest elephants. And these are elephants. These are huge, huge creatures. And apparently they are so adept at walking in those forests that if you didn't know they were there, you'd never hear them. Like these big lumbering elephants going through this jungle, that they can do it with such silence and stealth that it's really amazing. Now, I'm not discounting the fact that there could very well be a supernatural element to Bigfoot, that maybe they just aren't always in our realm of experience so they can traverse it easily. But if they are, then maybe it's due to the fact that on the elephants, what I understand is that basically an elephant's foot looks like this flat, stump of a thing. But in actuality, the skeleton of the elephant is like it's walking on its tiptoes. And the entire heel is basically above this fatty, soft wedge. And so it can step down without thumping. And maybe when you look at like the Patterson-Gimlin film, you see the bottom of Patty's feet. And they do look like they're very significant as far as what you see. I mean, they're clearly a big sole But what if that is kind of the same thing where they have this severe padding underneath there? And maybe that's why the cold doesn't bother them. Walking barefoot in snow and ice doesn't bother them because they're very, very well insulated on their feet. You know, what do you think of that thought, Don?
You know, yeah, because they do have very thick pad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it would they've learned to walk through their environment rather quietly, not unlike shall we say, like, I don't know, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, that kind of thing. So it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm thinking about Bigfoot, is they have a similar foot.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like they might have some huge padding underneath the skeletal, I don't know, makeup of their foot, and maybe there's this huge tissue, like a spongy type of tissue that forms there, and there you go.
There you go.
There you go. But just some thoughts on that. That was a little quicker read than I was anticipating, but still, those are some great stories. And I think it's funny because I think the first one was actually sounded like it could have been on the Appalachian Trail as well.
Right.
And interestingly enough, they do what every human does to get out of Dodge. Well, that's what was in that Brent Swanson article too, was get out of Dodge. So
right.
Interesting stuff. But anyway, I wanted to bring that to you guys. I hope you enjoyed those few stories, and special thanks again to Lon Strickler and of course, phantomsandmonsters.com for letting us share those on the show. That's really cool. So I think what we want to do now is go back to our article, and I don't want this, but I want to hit that reset button twice. Press the reset button twice, which is where we left off just before that break. And this one is a longer story, so bear with me. But let's get to this one. Number 47. And we're not even halfway on this article yet. It's 47 of these, and we're still not even halfway through the scroll bar on this article. So there's a lot to cook through on this list. So press the reset button twice. I'd like to preface this by saying my husband is an electrical engineer, and I'm a teacher. Also, we're not crazy people. So back when my husband and I were dating, my husband was in a terrible car crash. His truck hit black ice and he slid into oncoming traffic. His truck was completely totaled, so was the other truck he hit. The weird thing is both he and the other guy were completely fine. Not a scratch on them. All my husband had was a bruise on his knee. The first responders were baffled, as were the towing company and insurance, when they realized no one had lost their lives or been severely injured. Fast forward a few days after the crash, my husband comes over to my apartment. We're having a conversation about the university class we're both in, and he casually asks when I got the flat screen TV sitting on my dresser. At this point, I'm very confused because I've had the flat screen TV since I was 13, and I'd had it the entire year and the bit we've been dating. I asked him what he's talking about, as I've always had that TV. He told me to quit pulling his leg and asked me what I did with the old tube TV. I had no idea what he was talking about and told him so. He's convinced I had a tube TV, and I proceeded to get on Facebook, showed him a picture we had taken 2 weeks prior with the TV in the background. It's a flat screen in the picture. His reaction was terrifying. My husband goes white like he's seen a ghost and just stares into space for a minute. His eyes start to water. I asked him what's wrong, and he said, I swear to God, I'm not crazy. You had a tube TV since we started dating. It was a tube TV when we took that picture. I brushed it off as his being rattled from the accident and didn't bring it up again. However, anytime we hung out in that room, he'd always look at the TV just a little weird. Fast forward 7 years, my husband and I have been married for a few years and decided that we're ready to be parents. I'm not on birth control, and we decide whatever happens, happens. We're not actively trying, but not preventing it either. So we're on vacation in Italy, wandering around Rome, and I feel like garbage. I've had my period the week before, and it was the worst one I've had in my whole life. As we're walking around, I'm suffering from back pain, chills, horrific cramping. I go to the bathroom in a cafe and hurl my guts out, having diarrhea, and Realize I'm menstruating heavily. Obviously, I'm sorry, I didn't write this, folks. I'm just reading it. Obviously, I'm weirded out since I just had my period the week before. I clean myself up to go back to my husband and tell him I think we need a doctor. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, but this is insane. It's getting to the point where I'm having trouble walking. I'm starting to feel pain in my shoulders, and I don't want to ruin our vacation, but I'm starting to really worry. My husband is smarter than me, sees the state I'm in, and says I'm visibly paler than when I went to the bathroom, so he gets me help. 20 minutes later, I'm on a stretcher and being taken to the hospital. An hour after that, I get diagnosis, and it's terrifying. I'm being prepped for emergency surgery, as the doctor tells me. I have a ruptured ectopic pregnancy.
Oh, right.
I don't know what that means, but it must be a pregnancy in the tube or something.
Right, exactly.
Okay. I have heavy internal bleeding, and if he doesn't perform the surgery, I'm not going to make it. 6 hours later, I wake up very sore and tired. The doctor tells me I'm very lucky, and if I'd waited any longer to seek medical attention, I'd be a goner. My husband stays with me in the hospital the first night, then gets a hotel for the rest of my stay. A week later, we've cleared to fly home, and I go through a grueling month of healing from surgery. 2 months after our return, somehow my husband and I get on the topic of fires. He goes on about the danger of kitchen fires, and I say, no need to worry. We're all set up with the extinguisher in my closet. His reaction freaks me out again. He looks at me like I have 3 heads and asks me what I'm talking about. I remind him about the extinguisher in the front closet where we keep the coats. We've had it for 3 years. He insisted we buy one when we bought our house. My husband shakes his head and tells me he has no idea what I'm talking about, and we don't have a fire extinguisher. I remind him about the memories of fighting. I remind him about my memories of fighting about if we really needed one and where to put it, buying it at Home Depot and also installing it in the wall in the closet. He looks at me with confusion and tells me none of this happened. I get up, go to the front closet, and show it to him, all the while cursing him for being a jerk, for forgetting our 2-week fight about it, and lo and behold, no fire extinguisher. Not only is there no extinguisher, there are no holes in the wall where I know we installed it. No fresh paint, the wall's never been touched. I insist he's moved it and fixed the wall and ask why in heaven's name he would play such a stupid prank. He continues to insist we've never had one, let alone talked about getting one. This goes on for several minutes. I'm approaching hysterics, telling him to quit playing with me, and he finally says, now you know how I feel about that TV. We didn't speak about it for a very long time. Later, he brought up his theory about what happened, about his theory that perhaps in another timeline or dimension, or whatever you want to call it, we both actually passed after our related near misses. He thinks we reset like a video game, and the TV and fire extinguisher are glitches. I don't know if I agree with him. All I know is that I've never been so rattled in my whole life, and every time I get something out of the closet, I'm overwhelmed with this feeling of wrongness. I know it should be there, but somehow it's just not. I can't explain it. He says he will go to his grave swearing I had a tube TV. That was by the curved writing desk. Now that's interesting. So they actually correlated it to their both near misses with passing from this life. Maybe there is something to that. Maybe there's truly something to that. Like this is Mandela effects for both of them. They were thrust into this alternate version of themselves rather than being, passed on.
Right.
Wow. That's pretty intense. I think so. What do you think?
I'm always left with, the what ifs, and I don't know what to say there. I think they're interesting. That's for darn sure.
We'll go with that. But
okay,
we're at about the minute mark here when we're going to have to wrap up the show.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
A minute, 15 seconds. So again, ladies and gentlemen, no Paisley Wild, no spaces between this weekend. So hang in there. She'll be back soon. I'm sure she's just got some things going on. So until then, just know that the Paranormal Portal will be back tomorrow night. You can count on that.
Count on it.
Count on it. Count on it in one hand. One. The Paranormal Portal will return. So we'll be back tomorrow night again with another fun-filled adventure through the Paranormal Portal. But Don, anything in closing?
No, not tonight. Other than hi.
Other than good to have you back. It's good to have you back on the show, brother.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And
So,
we'll keep dialing you in for sure.
Right. Absolutely.
If you can't be here in person, by God, you can be here by Skype.
Maybe call it in, every now and then,
The power of Skype compels you. That's right. That's my exorcism. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for us. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody.